My sister wrote to all my friends for 2 years telling them I was toxic and a narcissist. I lost every friend I had. The day one of them called me crying to apologize, I found out my sister had just been cut off by her own friends for doing the same thing to them. Isabel called me on a Monday at 11 at night. I've known her for 14 years. When I picked up, the first thing I heard was how she was breathing. She didn't say anything for 15 seconds. Then she said, "Fair, forgive me. Please forgive me." She cried for 2 minutes before she could explain. I told her, "Isabel, breathe. Tell me from the beginning." What she told me that night took me 2 years to understand, and 2 more years of losing friends without knowing why. If this is your kind of story, subscribe and drop a like. It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it keeps the Reddit dopamine coming. Okay, back to the story. And at the end of the call she told me one more thing, something that had landed on my sister a week earlier, and that was the reason Isabel had finally put the puzzle together. Let me back up. My name is Fernanda. I'm 32. I'm a chef. I have a small restaurant in San Andres Cholula, on a cobblestone street that connects to the main avenue where the UDLAP college kids hang out at the bars. I opened it 5 years ago with a bank loan and an inheritance my paternal grandmother left me. I named it Mariposa because of an old joke between her and me. 9 tables, open kitchen, menu changes every 2 weeks based on what I find at the Cholula market on Mondays. I live in an apartment on 14 Orient Street, 12 blocks from the restaurant. I live alone with a fat cat that an ex left me, and his name is Pancho. My sous chef is Mauricio. He's 34. We studied together at the gastronomy school in Puebla. He's been with me since I opened. He's the person who knows me best at this stage of my life. I have an older sister. Her name is Karla. She's 35. She's an insurance agent at an office in downtown Puebla, on 5 Orient. She's married to a lawyer named Antonio and has a 6-year-old son, Mateo. She lives in a house in Lomas de Angelopolis, one of the big ones, in a gated community. Karla and I grew up in the same house in La Paz. My mom was a nurse. My dad had a small stationery shop on Reforma Avenue. Karla was the smart one, the one who always made straight A's. I was the other one, the one who burned her fingers cooking at 9 years old and who my mom would tell, "Fair, don't study that, you're not going to be able to live off it." Karla studied business administration. I fought with my parents for 3 years to let me into the gastronomy school. By the time I started, Karla was already working at an insurance company making good money. When I opened the restaurant 5 years ago, my mom came twice and said the food was pretty but weird. My dad never came. Karla came once, in the first month, with Antonio, and didn't come back. I knew before I opened that it was going to hurt Karla if things went well for me. What I didn't know was how far she was willing to go. I'm going to tell what happened the way Isabel laid it out for me that night, with the screenshots she sent me later. 3 years ago, more or less, Karla started writing to my friends. Not to all of them in a group. One by one. Over WhatsApp. She wrote to Isabel in March of 3 years ago. She said, "Hi Isa, I'm Fur's sister. Listen, I don't want to get into trouble, but something is bothering me. I know Fair better than anyone, and in private she's really toxic. She's a narcissist, everything revolves around her. A few weeks ago she was at a dinner at my house and said ugly things about you. That you're always needy, that if she could she'd stop seeing you. I'm not telling you to make drama. I'm telling you because if I were you, I'd want to know. Please don't tell her I wrote to you." Isabel froze when she read it. She saved it. She didn't tell me. She started replying to my texts 2 hours late. She started canceling things with vague excuses. By 3 months in, she wasn't writing me. I called her a couple of times. She told me, "I've got 1,000 things going on, I'll call you later." She didn't call. To Sandra, my other best friend from high school, she wrote in May of the same year. Same format. "My sister in private is really toxic. She's a narcissist." She'd change a small detail in each message so it would feel real. To Sandra she said I made fun of how she raised her kids. Sandra stopped inviting me to her things in 2 months. To Carolina, my coworker from my first kitchen job, she wrote in July. She told her I was a narcissist, that I thought she was mediocre in the kitchen, that she only stuck around me because she couldn't find work anywhere else. To Monica, a girl I had taken a trip to Oaxaca with 6 years ago, she wrote in September. She told her I was toxic, that I made fun of her accent. To Lupita, a customer at the restaurant who had become a friend, she wrote in November. To Andrea, to Patty, to Jimena. One by one. To the 8 women who at that point in my life were my close friends. Karla always wrote with the same 2 words, toxic and narcissist. Both repeated. As if they were a diagnosis that she, who had lived with me since I was 0 years old, could make and no one else. The rest of the message would change just enough so each friend would feel that message was specifically for her. The 8 did the same thing. They drifted away without saying anything. Some faster, some slower. In a year and a half I had no one to call on a Saturday. I didn't know. I thought it was me. I thought the restaurant was eating me up and that my friends got tired of me always being busy. I thought I was changing with age. I told Mauricio one afternoon, washing pots after service, "Mau, nobody calls me anymore." Do you think I became unbearable? Mauricio told me, "Fair, you're not unbearable. Something's off." He didn't know what. To Mauricio, Karla didn't write. Mauricio was a man and was from the kitchen. He wasn't part of the circle she cared about destroying. 2 years went by like that. 2 years of believing I was the problem. 2 years of canceling plans so I wouldn't end up alone at restaurants on Friday nights. 2 years of going down to the Cholula market on Mondays with headphones on so I wouldn't have to greet anyone in case they ignored me. I lost 6 kilos without trying. I started waking up at 4 in the morning for no reason. The restaurant was still doing well. The one who was unwell was me. What happened on Karla's side that week, I didn't know until Isabel's call. Karla belonged to her own group of friends in Lomas de Angelopolis. 5 women from the gated community, married to lawyers, with kids at the same school. They went out for wine on Thursdays, did girls' trips to Valle de Bravo. It was the circle Karla showed off the most. It turns out Karla, on top of doing to me what she did, had been doing it for years between them. Same voice. Same template. Same 2 words. One of the 5, in April, did what Isabel would do a few days later. She asked Karla a favor over Facebook. Karla replied to her badly. She remembered something strange Karla had said 2 years before. She went to look it up. She talked to another. Another remembered something similar. They talked among the 5 at a lunch without Karla. They compared messages. Same template. Same 2 words. The 5 removed her from the WhatsApp group on a Monday morning. No discussion. No call out. No chance to explain. Karla found out when she sent a message to the group and saw it didn't exist. That was a Monday. By Tuesday half the gated community knew. By Wednesday my mom knew, because a cousin of ours who lives in Lomas told her. By Thursday Isabel's mom knew, because she has a friend in the gated community. Isabel found out Thursday at 5 in the afternoon, having lunch with her mom. Her mom told her, "Do you remember Fur's sister? Well, something pretty bad happened to her. Her friends kicked her out of the group from one day to the next. They say she spent years inventing things between one and another." Isabel held the fork still in her hand. She asked her mom to tell her everything she knew. When she got home that night, she opened WhatsApp and looked up Karla's conversation from 3 years ago. She read it 3 times. She picked out the 2 words, toxic, narcissist. The same ones her mom had just told her Karla had used to describe the friends from the Lomas group. She called Sandra. She said, "Sandra, do you remember if Karla, Fur's sister, wrote you something in 2022? Sandra said yes. Sandra went to look up the conversation. Same template. Between Thursday night and Sunday, Isabel and Sandra talked to the other 6. Carolina. Monica. Lupita. Andrea. Patty. Jimena. Each one had her own message saved from 3 years ago. Each one with the same 2 words. They made a WhatsApp group without me, the 8 of them. They compared screenshots. Same template. Same person. By Sunday afternoon Isabel volunteered. She said she had to be the one to call me, because she had been the first to drift away and because she was the one who owed me the longest apology. She spent Sunday night trying to gather the courage. She did it Monday at 11. That's why she called me crying that night. That's why she was crying. When I hung up with Isabel at 1:15 in the morning, I sat on the kitchen floor next to Poncho, and I laughed. I don't know why I laughed. I laughed because for 2 years I had thought it was me. I laughed because I had been apologizing in my head to people who had done nothing to me, while the person who had been doing it was the one who came to my mom's birthday dinner every August and gave me a kiss on the cheek. I laughed because the betrayal had landed at the same moment as the news that her world had just collapsed on the other side, and my head didn't know what to do with the 2 things together. After laughing I started crying. After crying I fell asleep on the floor. I woke up at 6 with a sore neck. That same morning I called Karla. I said, "Karla, I know what you did." Karla laughed. She said, "Fair, what are you talking about?" I said, "Isabel, Sandra, Carolina, Monica, Lupita, Andrea, Patty, Jimena. Messages you sent them 3 years ago. The same 2 words you said to your friends in Lomas. Karla went quiet. For a long time. Then she said, "Fair, that was a long time ago. I was going through a rough patch. I had a lot of stress at work. I love you." I said, "Don't talk to me, don't write to me. If you see Mom, don't mention my name. If you see me at a family dinner, don't greet me. That's it." I hung up. My mom called me that same afternoon. Karla had called her crying. My mom said, "Fair, sweetheart, you're sisters. A family doesn't break over gossip." I told my mom, "Mom, it wasn't gossip. Those were messages she sent in writing to my 8 friends over an entire year. I spent 2 years thinking there was something wrong with me. I love you, but this isn't going to be talked about anymore." I hung up on her too. My mom kept writing me for 2 months. Then she stopped writing. The 8 friends came back, one by one. Some in the days that followed, others took weeks. Isabel was the first. She came to the restaurant on a Tuesday night after closing. She brought a bottle of wine. She said, "Fair, there's nothing I can say that fixes this. But I want to be close again." I said, I missed you all too." Step by step. We drank the bottle at the bar until 2 in the morning. Sandra came the following Friday with her husband. Carolina the next weekend with her 2 kids. Monica flew in from Oaxaca a weekend just to see me. Each one apologized. To all of them I said the same thing, that they didn't owe me the apology, that they had been victims too, that what mattered was we were back in the same group. The restaurant filled up again with people I knew. Mauricio told me one night, drying plates, "Fair, you came back." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "You lost 6 kilos in 2 years and put them back in 2 months. And you laugh." You weren't laughing. I didn't answer. I started chopping parsley so he wouldn't see me. To Karla, the things that were already in motion before my call kept happening. She wasn't invited to one of the group friends' birthdays that month. Her son Mateo stopped getting invited to school birthdays because the moms coordinate that over WhatsApp and Karla wasn't in any group anymore. Antonio told her in a fight, according to my mom, who heard from the same cousin, that he was tired of nobody talking to him at every gathering, and that if it went on like that he was going to move closer to his job. In May Karla wrote to me on WhatsApp. She hadn't written in 2 months. "Fair, I don't know what's happening in my life. Everything is falling apart. Could we talk?" I read it twice. I answered with one line. "You do know what's happening, Karla. You spent 2 years doing to others what everyone is doing to you now." She hasn't written again. My mom called me last week. She told me Karla was very bad, that she didn't leave her room, that Antonio was sleeping in the guest room. She asked me if I couldn't make a gesture. I told my mom the same thing I told her in March, that I loved her, but that this topic wasn't going to be talked about anymore. My mom hung up without saying goodbye. I haven't seen my dad in 2 years. The last time was Christmas before all of this happened. He hasn't looked for me. I haven't either. Last Saturday Isabel and Sandra stayed for dinner at my place after the restaurant closed. Mauricio too. Pancho was sleeping on the table. We talked about things that weren't Karla. We talked about the new menu, about Sandra's kids, about the dog Isabel just bought. When they left at 1:30, I sat for a while in the living room looking at the dirty plates. I thought about my sister, alone in her house in Lomas de Angelopolis, no group of friends, with her husband sleeping in another room, with a son who isn't getting invitations anymore. I thought that people who spend their lives taking things from others, at some point arrive at the table and realize they're the only one with nothing. I turned off the light. Pancho jumped off the table and came to sleep with me.